Have you ever stopped to wonder what's truly stealing the time you have left? What silent force creeping in day after day might be robbing you not just of years, but of the quality of those years? The harsh truth is this: after 60, it's not the big, dramatic events that shorten our lives. It's the small, daily choices, the habits we repeat so often, we stop noticing them. These patterns, so deeply rooted, eventually turn into deadly traps. And here's the most frightening part: most people only realize it when it's already too late. What I'm about to share with you is not opinion or theory. It's fact. Backed by decades of studies on aging and longevity, these are the 7 most dangerous mistakes that men and women over 60 make every single day. Mistakes that silently speed up the decline of the body, the mind, and the spirit. Each one of these is like a slow-working poison, invisible, silent, but relentless. And worst of all, most of us are guilty of at least one, convinced that this is just part of getting older. But it's not. And if you truly want to live longer and live well, you need to stay with me until the very end. In this video, you'll learn to recognize the subtle warning signs and hidden habits that separate those who age with strength and vitality from those who fade away, day after day, without ever realizing why. To make this journey even more real, I'll introduce you to 2 people. 2 true-to-life stories that will force you to reflect on your own path. By the time we finish, you won't just know these 7 deadly mistakes, you'll understand how to avoid them starting today. Because it's never too late to change your story, as long as you start now. Comment number 1 below if you're ready to learn these deadly mistakes and change your life while you still can. One of the most dangerous and most common mistakes people make after 60 is believing that slowing down is just part of aging. They stop moving, stop stretching, and worst of all, they stop fighting for their strength. What most don't realize is that muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, isn't just about looking frail. It's a silent killer. By the time you reach 60, your body naturally loses muscle mass every single year. Not staying active doesn't just make you weaker, it shrinks your very capacity to survive. Muscles don't just help you lift things or climb stairs. They regulate blood sugar, support your joints, protect your bones, and even impact your brain health. Robert learned this the hard way. In the first years after his retirement, Robert promised himself he'd get back into shape. He even bought a pair of walking shoes. But life got comfortable. The couch, the remote, the occasional walk to the mailbox. That was it. Every year he felt himself getting slower, stiffer, until the stiffness became pain. And the pain became fear. Fear of falling. Fear of breaking a bone that might never heal. At 74, Robert's world has shrunk. Stairs feel like mountains. Getting off the couch is a struggle. And last winter, one simple slip on wet pavement shattered his hip, an injury from which he's never fully recovered. Now compare that to Bill. At 76, Bill knows exactly what's at stake. He made strength a non-negotiable part of his routine. Twice a week, he lifts weights at the community center. Nothing extreme, but enough to challenge his body. He practices balance exercises, because he knows that most deadly accidents at his age start with a fall. Science is clear. People over 60 who engage in resistance training not only maintain muscle mass but reduce their risk of falls, fractures, and even heart disease. A study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine revealed that muscle strengthening activities lower the risk of early death by as much as 23%. Bill feels that difference every day. He still hikes, he still lifts his grandkids in the air, and most importantly, he moves without fear. His body still serves him because he never stopped serving it. If you've ever thought to yourself, "I'm too old for this," remember this. The real danger isn't the workout. The real danger is doing nothing. Start small. Stretch every morning. Take the stairs when you can. Pick up light weights. Because losing your strength means losing your freedom. There's a silent epidemic sweeping through the lives of people over 60. One that rarely makes headlines but kills more efficiently than most diseases. It's not cancer. It's not heart attacks. It's loneliness. What few realize is that isolation after retirement isn't just sad, it's deadly. Studies have shown that loneliness increases the risk of early death by 26%, rivaling smoking, obesity, and heavy drinking. It raises the chances of dementia, heart disease, stroke, and depression. In fact, the National Institute on Aging calls loneliness a serious public health risk. Robert never imagined he'd become part of that statistic. When he retired, his world shrank overnight. The daily conversations at the hardware store vanished. Old friends, once bound by routine, drifted away. Family visits became less frequent, his children busy with their own lives. Robert started spending entire days without hearing his own voice out loud. At first, he told himself it was fine. He enjoyed the quiet, the rest, but slowly, that quiet turned into emptiness. His sleep worsened. His appetite disappeared. The spark that once lit up his eyes faded, until all that was left was a man waiting. Waiting for phone calls that never came, waiting for visits that grew shorter and fewer. Loneliness became his companion, and it was killing him. Bill faced the same risk, but he made a different choice. He knew that after 60, friendships don't just happen. You have to fight for them. So, Bill built his tribe. He joined a local book club, not because he loved every book, but because he loved the conversation. He volunteered twice a week, teaching basic computer skills to other seniors, and every Saturday he hiked with his group, the Old Wolves, as they called themselves, not for the exercise, but for the bond. It wasn't always easy. There were weeks he didn't feel like going, days he preferred to stay home. But Bill understood something Robert didn't. Isolation starts as a feeling, but it ends as a habit, and habits at his age define everything. Researchers at Harvard proved it. In the longest study on happiness and longevity, the single biggest predictor of a long, healthy life was not wealth, diet, or even genetics. It was the quality of your relationships. Bill chose connection. Robert chose comfort, and the difference is written all over their faces. There's a lie many people over 60 have come to accept, that poor sleep is just part of getting older. The restless nights, the constant waking, the early rising, it's all normal, they're told. But what if I told you that this mindset is not only wrong, it's dangerous? Sleep is not optional. It's not a luxury. It's the most powerful and most overlooked medicine for the aging body and mind. And when you sacrifice sleep, you sacrifice everything else. Robert has been living this mistake for years. It started slowly, waking up once or twice a night, sometimes unable to fall back asleep. He shrugged it off. After all, what did it matter? He was retired. He could nap during the day, but those naps became longer and his nights became shorter. Soon, the fog set in. Robert's memory started slipping. Small things at first, misplaced keys, forgotten names. But the worst part wasn't what he forgot, it was how he felt. Tired, irritable, empty. He turned to sleeping pills. Just for a while, he told himself. But instead of real sleep, he slipped into chemical sedation. His brain never got the deep, restorative rest it needed, and with every passing month, his risk of dementia, heart disease, and even cancer grew. Quietly, invisibly. Bill saw the same pattern start to creep into his life. But he chose a different path. When sleep got harder, Bill didn't ignore it. He learned why sleep changes with age. He created a routine. Dim lights after sunset, no screens before bed, a cool, dark room. He stuck to his bedtime like it was sacred, because it was. And science backed him up. Studies from institutions like the National Sleep Foundation confirm that deep sleep cleans the brain, literally washing away the toxins that build up and lead to Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. Missing that deep sleep is like skipping your brain's nightly repair cycle. Bill wakes up rested, alert, ready to live. Robert, meanwhile, drifts through his days in a haze, surviving, but not truly living. If you've ever told yourself, "It's just sleep, it doesn't matter," remember this: sleep is where your body heals. It's where your mind sharpens. Lose it, and you lose everything. There's a quiet shift that happens to many people after 60. Their appetite fades. Meals become smaller, lighter. Some even skip them altogether, thinking, "I don't need as much anymore." But what feels like a harmless adjustment is, in truth, a deadly mistake. Eating less is not the problem. Eating wrong is. Robert never noticed the change. After his wife passed, cooking felt like a chore. Breakfast became a cup of coffee and a slice of toast. Lunch, whatever was quick, maybe a sandwich or some crackers. Dinner, most nights, frozen meals from the microwave. He told himself it was fine. He wasn't hungry anyway, but every bite he skipped, every nutrient he neglected, pushed his body closer to the edge. His muscles shrank, his bones weakened, his skin thinned, and worst of all, his immune system collapsed. Last winter, a simple cold turned into pneumonia. 3 weeks in the hospital. 3 weeks that nearly killed him. All because his body had nothing left to fight with. Meanwhile, Bill understood a truth most ignore. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at absorbing the nutrients it desperately needs: protein, omega-3s, vitamins D and B12, all harder to process yet more critical than ever. Bill made eating well part of his daily discipline. He learned to love nutrient-dense foods: salmon, leafy greens, berries, nuts. He didn't just eat to fill his stomach, he ate to fuel his future, and the science is undeniable. Studies in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging show that malnutrition, even mild, is linked to higher mortality, frailty, and hospitalizations in older adults. It's not just about calories. It's about what those calories carry. Bill's energy reflects his choices. He moves with strength. His skin glows with health. And when illness strikes, his body fights back, because it's fed, it's fueled, it's ready. Robert, on the other hand, is fading. Not because of age, but because his body is starving. Slowly, quietly. Some dangers scream. Others whisper. So quietly, most people never hear them until it's too late. Chronic inflammation is one of those silent killers. It burns beneath the surface, slowly damaging cells, arteries, and organs. And yet, most people over 60, like Robert, have no idea it's there. Inflammation is the root of almost every major disease that takes lives after 60. Heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, Alzheimer's, even cancer. Not the sharp, obvious kind of inflammation from an injury, but a low-grade, constant fire smoldering inside the body, ignited by years of poor habits, bad food, inactivity, and stress. Robert was never one for doctors. After retirement, the checkups stopped. Blood work? Too much hassle. He figured if something was wrong, he'd feel it. But that's the trick with inflammation. You don't feel it. You live with it, day after day, as it silently eats away at your health. His body gave him signs: swollen joints, constant fatigue, brain fog. But Robert blamed age. He didn't know his blood markers, CRP, blood sugar, cholesterol, were screaming for attention. By the time the heart attack hit, there was no more guessing. Bill, on the other hand, made a promise to himself. He'd know his numbers. Twice a year, he sat with his doctor, not because he was sick, but because he wanted to stay well. He tracked his inflammation markers. He learned which foods fueled the fire: sugars, processed meats, trans fats, and which foods fought it: leafy greens, fatty fish, turmeric. Bill made inflammation his enemy, and he fought back every single day. The research is staggering. According to a study published in The Lancet, chronic inflammation is linked to 50% of all deaths worldwide. It doesn't just predict disease, it causes it. That's why Bill still feels sharp, still moves with purpose, while Robert lives in a body that's breaking down from the inside out. If you've been ignoring those silent markers thinking, "I feel fine, so I must be fine," think again. What you can't see is often what kills you. There's a moment, sometimes subtle, sometimes sudden, when people stop learning. They put down the books, avoid new skills, and retreat into what they already know. After 60, this mistake feels harmless, comfortable even. But in reality, it's the beginning of cognitive decline, and for many, the slow road to dementia. The brain, like every muscle, follows a simple rule: use it or lose it. Robert didn't notice it happening. After retiring, he stopped reading. The news felt too heavy, the novels too long. His mind, once sharp from solving problems at work, started drifting. He forgot why he walked into rooms. Conversations felt harder to follow. Names slipped away, faces blurred. At first, he laughed it off. "Old age," he'd say, but deep down, fear grew. So he avoided the challenge. He stopped trying, and that was the real mistake. Bill saw it too, that quiet temptation to slow down, to drift. But he made a different choice. At 65, Bill enrolled in a Spanish class. Not because he needed it, but because his brain did. At 70, he learned to play chess. At 74, he took a community college course on history. It wasn't about mastery. It was about challenge. About forcing his brain to stretch, adapt, grow. The results were visible. While Robert faded, Bill stayed sharp. He remembered names, stories, jokes. His mind stayed curious, hungry, and the science is undeniable. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that older adults who engage in regular cognitive training experience significant improvements in memory, reasoning, and processing. Speed, benefits that last for years. Mental decline is not inevitable. It is, more often than not, the result of neglect. Bill knew that his mind, like his muscles, needed exercise. Robert didn't, and he paid the price. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, "I'm too old to learn that," stop. That's the first sign you're already giving up. Challenge your mind. Read. Learn a language. Play music. Because the moment you stop feeding your brain, you start losing it. There is a moment after the career ends, after the children are grown, when many people wake up and ask, "What now?" And if the answer is nothing, life begins to quietly unravel. Losing purpose is not just emotional, it's biological. Studies show that people without a clear reason to wake up in the morning are more likely to suffer from heart disease, depression, stroke, and even die earlier. Purpose, and the routine that carries it, is the invisible thread holding health, happiness, and longevity together. Robert never saw it coming. The day he locked the doors of his hardware store for the last time, he felt proud. A chapter closed. But what he didn't realize was that he had left behind more than a job. He left behind his identity, his purpose, his reason to get out of bed. At first, the free time felt like a gift. No more schedules, no more stress. But days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and slowly the absence of routine became a prison. Robert stopped setting an alarm. Breakfast moved to noon. Some days he didn't bother to change out of his pajamas, and with each passing week, his world shrank. Without purpose, his mind dulled, his body weakened, his heart grew heavy. He was breathing, but he wasn't living. Bill understood this trap. Long before his retirement, he asked himself, "What will get me up every morning when the job is done?" And he built his answer. For Bill, purpose wasn't just one big thing. It was woven into the small routines. Tuesday mornings at the library, teaching kids to read. Thursday, hikes with the old wolves. Sunday dinners he cooked from scratch. He structured his days not out of obligation, but because he knew his brain and body needed rhythm. Purpose didn't find him. He created it. And science agrees, the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors with a sense of purpose were nearly 50% less likely to develop Alzheimer's. Another study in JAMA Psychiatry confirmed that purposeful living reduces the risk of dying early, no matter your age or health status. Bill still wakes up with a spark in his eyes. Robert stares at the ceiling, wondering how another day has come and gone, and why it feels so empty. If you've ever felt yourself drifting, if you've wondered where the meaning went, know this. Purpose is the anchor that keeps your soul from drifting into darkness. You're never too old to find it, but you have to start looking. So here we are. You've walked this road with me, and with Robert and Bill. 2 men, 2 lives, shaped by small decisions that grew into powerful forces, pulling them toward completely different futures. And maybe, as you listened, you recognized pieces of yourself in both of them. The truth is, we all carry a little Robert and a little Bill inside us. We all face those moments, especially after 60, when we stand at a quiet crossroads. Do we surrender to the slow decay, or do we fight for every moment we have left? Robert didn't make one big mistake. He made 1,000 small ones. Brushing off the pain in his knees, skipping the doctor's visits, sleeping less, eating worse, avoiding challenges, letting relationships fade. Each choice felt harmless in the moment. But together, they built a life he no longer recognized. A life filled with regrets. And Bill chose every single day to push back. Not with grand gestures, but with discipline, with intention. He moved his body, challenged his mind, built his tribe, tracked his health, ate to fuel his future. And most of all, he woke up every morning knowing why. The science couldn't be clearer. The habits you choose today, right now, decide not just how long you'll live, but how well. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about claiming the years you've earned and filling them with strength, clarity, connection, and purpose. Because it's not too late. Not for you, your muscles, your mind, your heart. They're all waiting for you to show up. Waiting for you to decide that the best years aren't behind you. They're right here if you're willing to fight for them. So I'll leave you with one final question. Years from now, when you look back on this moment, will you remember it as the day you started fading or the day you chose to rise? The choice is yours. If you're ready to choose life, strength, and purpose, comment number 9 below. Let me know you're still here and you're ready. And if this video made you think, share it, like it, subscribe, turn on the notifications, because someone you love might be standing at the same crossroads right now, and they need to hear this too. Your future is still being written. Make it a story worth telling.